Hi, Joe here from You Choose the Way. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to confront fear so that it no longer gets in your way from allowing you to soar and freely take the decisions that would most fulfill you. If you look back at your past, at the past decisions that you've made to end up where you are today, have you ever taken decisions not because it was what you most wanted or what most truly spoke to you, but because other people expected it from you, or maybe you had created expectations about this path for yourself, or you took decisions because that's what people just generally do? And so, again, not doing them because they truly spoke to you, but more because you were too scared to actually take the decisions that would most work for you and what you most want out of life. Yeah, I bet you have. I've taken tons of wrong turns and unauthentically taken decisions because I was too scared to take the one that I most wanted to take. But then throughout my 20s, I spent a lot of time dealing with fear, confronting fear so that I could slowly bring the wall of fear down so that it much less often consumed me and took control of the decisions that I took in my life. So actually, the reason that I decided I wanted to do the video on fear today is because I'm actually at a crossroad where fear is quite present for me. Me and my partner are going to be embarking on a 5-month motorcycle adventure in the coming weeks. I'm scared that my wings will feel clipped from being on the back of the motorcycle and feeling as though there's not enough space there for me or something. So because of the fact that this fear feels very present, I thought that I would take advantage of it to dissect my favorite steps, or the steps that I use to best confront fear so that it doesn't stop me from doing the things I wanted to do. Because a few months ago, I had said that I would not go on the back of the motorcycle because I had let the fear consume me. And after I did these steps that I'm going to tell you about now, I changed my mind, and here I am, a few weeks away from embarking on the adventure as the passenger on the motorcycle. So hopefully, if you use these same steps yourself, you'll be able to also confront things that your own version of the motorcycle adventure. So make sure you tune in until the end of the video, because in the end of the video, I'll talk you through an activity that you can do to really break down what this fear is all about for you. So let's get started. Number 1, the very first thing that I do to confront fear is work on my self-confidence, which for me goes hand in hand with working on my self-love. So the more that I feel comfortable with who I am, the skills that I have, and what I offer to the world, the more that I know that I'll be okay no matter what happens. So even in the worst case scenario of my fears becoming a reality, I trust myself enough to know that I'll be okay. So for self-love, the main tools that I use to make sure that I feel good within myself are regular meditation, journaling, mindfulness, so not just mindfulness within my meditation practice, but really just trying as often as possible within my day-to-day to be present with what is happening, not only externally, but internally within me, and accepting that. So now let's kind of within this same step now pivot towards talking about self-confidence. So for me, one of the tools that I use to develop my self-confidence is regularly celebrating my small victories. So we sit around talking so regularly and so openly about all our failures, the things that we do wrong, how disappointed we are in ourselves for whatever. And yet, when was the last time that you celebrated a great thing that you did, a small little accomplishment, something that is equally as important as the things that you regularly complain about yourself, but for successes? Another key tool I use to help feel confident and strong within myself is taking the time to get acquainted with and shut up those inner critics in my mind. So we all have these beasts within us. These are these voices that live inside of us and tell us how stupid we are, how could we have thought to do this in this way, how loud and obnoxious you are, whatever it is. We all have voices and they say a bajillion different things to us, all trying to put us down, to make sure that we don't shine too bright or, become too big for our bridges or whatever. And so by taking some time to get to know those inner critics, just sit and recognize what they say to me, I was slowly able to turn the volume button down so that these inner critics didn't convince me that the fears that I had were justified, because they will so do that if you let them. And the last point is being true to who I am. I find the more authentically that I am living my life, the more confident I feel, and then this becomes like a snowball of confidence and feeling good about myself and the person that I am. Because, we're all different. We're all different. We're all imperfect, and that's perfectly okay. The more that we can accept who it is that we are and the imperfections that comes with, the more comfortable we become at just allowing the truest version of ourselves to appear in our day-to-day, in our interactions, in our adventures, in the choosing of our life paths. The second thing is to have a look at your expectations. Many of us expect a lot from ourselves, and then so also we have a tendency to put extremely high expectations on what we expect from the world or the adventures or the circumstances we'll put ourselves into. And oftentimes it's these unrealistic expectations of what might happen or who I might be or how I might deal with the situation that actually makes the situation seem much more daunting. Because if I'm expecting that I'm gonna go on this motorcycle adventure and I'm gonna handle this perfectly, then it's unrealistic. So with this fear, do I expect that the back of the motorcycle will always be comfortable? Or do I expect that my partner will always drive in a way that I absolutely love? No, again, that's not realistic. No one's gonna be doing anything perfectly. Life isn't perfect. Just like with all things in life, sometimes it's good circumstances and outcomes, and other times it's not. And in the span of 5 months, it's inevitable that there'll be good days, bad days, rainy days, muddy days, sunny days, and everything in between. And so the third thing that you can do is becoming acquainted with the fear, or befriending it. Oftentimes we reject and repulse and push away anything that scares us, just like we do with a lot of negative emotions. Instead of learning how to better manage them and allowing them to become something that feels more comfortable within us, which is totally possible, we just avoid it. We push it away. We don't want anything to do with it. So by befriending or getting acquainted with this fear of yours, what I mean is taking some time to just kind of have a look at it, see what it's all about, see what it stems from, just kind of break it down a little bit so that it doesn't seem quite so daunting. I can tell you that with this fear that I'm confronting about the claustrophobia on the motorcycle, it was really by allowing it to be present and taking some time to think about it and breaking it down for myself, that I was really able to see what the fear was about, and that I wasn't willing to not take part in the motorcycle adventure and have this fear win. So the fourth thing that you can do to destroy that fear is mindfulness. When we're thinking of this fear and what might happen in the future, we're focusing our attention on a time that's not even real. So we're thinking about the future and we're focusing our attention on something that may or may not happen. And so with mindfulness, what we do is that when we notice that we're focusing our attention on a time that's not real, like the future or the past, we notice that our mind is elsewhere and we shift it towards the present moment. So in the present moment, you can focus your attention on anything that is coming through your senses. So you notice that you're thinking about the fear. As soon as you notice and your awareness is on the fact that you're thinking about that fear again, you release it and bring your attention back to the present moment. And the more that you do this practice, to be able to become really good at doing this, you have to be regularly practicing mindfulness in your day-to-day life. And so, yeah, I think this is a very, very valuable tool that you can use to diminish the size of this monster, this fear monster that's been created. Oftentimes this fear has it has become so big, like a gremlin that just keeps eating because we keep focusing our attention on it. That's why it's grown so big. So by detouring our attention away from it every time that we notice that we're thinking about it, that gremlin just loses its power, loses its strength, and loses its grip that it has on us. So now this is the part in the video when where I'm gonna tell you what you can do to kind of break down this fear, so that you can get to know it a little bit better and really analyze it, unpack it, so that the knot that it's created within you kind of slowly becomes undone. And just like a ball of ribbon that's been tangling within itself for years, you see that after you take out a few knots, the whole thing just kind of undoes itself. So first, I want you to think of a fear that exists within you. I'd say choose something that stops you from doing something that you've always wanted to do. Like, maybe you've always wanted to quit your job to try and start your own business. Or maybe you've always wanted to take a sabbatical to travel to Argentina. I don't know. What are the things that stop you from doing the things that you would most like to do in your life? Choose those fears and start by giving them a name. Next, I want you to just take some time to describe that fear. So write a bit more, like freestyle. What comes up within you when you think about that fear? Next, what you want to do is take some time finding different points of things that you can do to make sure that that fear doesn't become realized. So for my motorcycle adventure, for example, so my fear is that I'll end up feeling like super claustrophobic and stuck and like without space in the back of the motorcycle, basically. And so to make sure that that doesn't happen, when we're not on the motorcycle, I can make sure that I'm taking some time to do some yoga and really stretch out my body. I can make sure that, again, off the motorcycle, I'm taking some time and some space to just be on my own and make sure that I'm, roaming as freely as I need to roam to feel freed, So take your fear and do the same thing. So if you've been wanting to take a sabbatical to move to Argentina, maybe what stops you is your fear of the unknown. Maybe it's fear of running out of money. Maybe there's things that you can do to reduce that fear or reduce the possibility of that becoming a reality. The next thing you're going to want to do is imagine that your fear does become a reality. What could you do in that circumstance to make the situation better? So again, coming back to my motorcycle adventure. So imagine I'm on the back of the bike, we're in the middle of Uzbekistan, and I get antsy and feel a bit nervous and feel a bit squished in. Maybe I can create like sign language that I use, like a signal that I use with my partner to let him know that I need a break. Maybe it's just that simple. Or maybe within those moments, I tap into my mindfulness tool belt. So I notice that I'm feeling anxious all of a sudden because of the lack of space. Instead, all I have to do is shift my focus towards the beautiful sights, the wind in my hair, the birds flying nearby, and just allow my focus to rest on that. And the last thing that you can do to kind of try and help unpack this fear is do an analysis about what you gain and what you lose by confronting the fear, and what you gain and lose by not confronting the fear. So have both of those situations on a spectrum and see whether it's really even worthwhile to you to not confront this lifelong dream all because this fear is there. And like, what could you possibly gain from destroying this fear and going after the activity or the adventure or the job of your dreams or whatever it is that you are looking to achieve? And once you're done, I hope that by doing these different steps to kind of unpack this fear that exists within you, hopefully it's started to seem a little bit less daunting, a little bit more manageable, and something that you could throw in your backpack, have you join in on the adventure, but that doesn't get to call the shots or take charge of the steering wheel. Instead, it's just part of the experience. So I hope that that tool also helps and serves to get you confronting these fears of yours, so that ideally, with the combination of all the tools that we've talked about in today's video, you can destroy that fear and take those daring decisions that you've always been wanting to take. So good luck in this management of fear. I know how intimidating it can be, but I know you can do it.